Hey guys, after taking care of Chains build and new freeze essences, it's time now to have a deep dive into PvP. Today I will cover low, mid and high resonance builds. We will talk about the jobs of Barbarian in Battleground and finally taking a look into the new meta build. I will show you not one, not two, not three, no 4 different builds for all of you guys to find your individual best playstyles. Can't wait to start, so let's go. First of all, I want to talk with you about what is our job as Barbarians in Battleground. This question is important to understand the builds I'm going to show you next. All of the stuff I will tell you now. And guys, please consider this. It's from my personal experience in this game. I know that the matchmaking is off sometimes, the class balance is not proper, and you will have to do stuff in Battleground that you normally shouldn't do. But all of the following focus on games that run more or less in a fair and balanced way. Okay, let's look at a regular situation in Battleground when we need to push or defend the idol. So we have our team on the left side, we are pushing the idol. On the right side you see the enemy, so left side our backline, right side the enemy's backline, in the middle the idol itself. This is the normal way and the most common situation in Battleground where you have to tackle most of the time of the game. So for us Barbarians, where do we need to stay? As a low resonance player, you should be behind the idol. That means not completely behind the idol, no, you're touching the idol. So every time you have the chance to push the idol, you go into the idol, but then you fall back. You do not fall forward because you do not deal enough damage, so you can't kill anyone. You are too squishy, you die too early, so you need to be behind the idol. You defend your own backline, your team. As a mid-resonance player, you need to be in the idol all of the time, circling in the idol to keep pushing that thing. This is your main job, pushing or at least stopping, whatever. Because you can stay alive even longer, that's good, you can focus on staying alive, but you are not dealing enough damage to kill a complete enemy backline, so you're not the damage dealer. You are a guy that needs to be in the idol. For the high resonances on the other side, they need to be in front of the idol. So killing enemy backline is their job, they need to deal damage. But again, you are not a complete, fully out of control, running off guy like a Tempest or a Blood Knight. So you will touch the idol. You have your space is on the upper part of the idol and the enemy backline. You're rotating always back to the idol to keep pushing it a bit. So we are connected to the idol all of the time through the whole game. We are no damage dealer like a demon hunter that stays completely behind the idol. We are not a enemy backline killer like a Tempest who is completely in front of the idol. We are the guys who are pushing that thing. So what does it need? What do we need to do, or what ability do we need to have to do this job? As a low resonance player, you need to stay alive, you need to be speedy, you need to be fast, you need to rotate out of the idol, back into the idol, out of the idol, back into the idol, so that you can utilize your skills as a disrupt guy. You need to deal CC, you need to slow the enemy, you need to pull the enemy, you need to disrupt in any way possible. But you need to be fast because you're squishy. If you're dying too often, you will lose the game. You will be no benefit to your team, so you need to be fast. Mid-resonance, on the other side, you need to stay in the idol all of the time, so you need to survive. You need to have skills, sets and essences equipped that lets you stay alive longer. Because in the idol there's a lot of things going on. You will have a lot of CCs on you, a lot of damage on you, so you will not effectively be able to primary attack a lot of times. So what you need is dots, counterattacks, anything that deals damage while you are stunned or under any loss of control. For the high resonance part, there's a clear job. You need to deal damage. Damage dealing is your job. You need to kill the enemy backline, or at least creating space in front of the idol so the idol can move. And for that you need burst damage. Not only damage, you need to burst them very, very quickly. So when we look at the different direction our builds can take, I try to figure out the most most important part of a build that you can go for with your build. So we start with an immunity. For a low resonance player, immunity is very cool because it lets you stay alive longer, you are squishy, you need to run away. Immunity is a nice thing. Mid resonance, not so important anymore because you are anywhere in the idle, in the midst of the idle, so you will not deal that much damage. You will be stunned sooner or later, and if you're running out with your immunity, you're no help to the team anymore. So you need to be in the idle. Immunity not that important for you. For high resonance, it gets important again because you need to deliver your damage. Especially when you go to a very high resonance, like 6, 7, 8k something and even more, you need to be immune to enemy CC to deliver your damage. Next, for the shields, low resonance, not important, you get so much damage that shields are just popping and gone in a millisecond, so forget about shields, not so important for you. For the mid resonance, on the other hand, where you get a proper armor now, shields help you to stay alive even longer, and they help you to shortly step back, getting your shields up when your undying is down, saving the time for any savior or gladiator or whatever, and go back into the battle. So for mid, shields are good. For the high resonance, on the other hand, they getting less and less important. For the lower part of the high resonance, yes, you can use them. They're cool builds where you have shields and they're very useful. But for the very high resonance, those things will not help you anymore. You have so much armor, you don't get any damage, and then you have your undying, you have your savior, you have your gladiator, and they rotate all of the time, and you don't get that much damage that you die at all. So forget about shields on the highest resonance. Dots, on the other hand, not important for low resonance. You don't have enough armor penetration to actually deal damage. You have a low duration on that, so forget it. Mid resonance, it gets important because it's a good chance for you to deal damage at all when you are in that stun lock or anything. And for the high resonance players, this is very important. You need dots. Dots are your bread and butter. You will kill a lot of people around you just with that dots, because if you're very high armor penetration and you're very high potency. Duration, so anything that prolongs the effect of your harmful effects, are very good for low resonance. You have a low potency, so you will have a 30-40% reduction of the duration of your CCs or of any harmful effect you do. So having a boost in that duration is very, very good for you. So Misery Elixir or Baron 2-piece, whatever. For the mid, it gets a little bit less important because you are normally going into a higher potency range where you already have enough of that, and you need to focus on survive. So having it is good, but not always needed. And for the high resonance, again, this is not important. You have enough armor penetration and potency. You don't need to prolong the duration. It is always on max anyway. So forget about duration for that. CC, one of the most important things. For low to mid resonance, this is important. This is kind of your job, disrupting the enemies, annoying them like hell, that they can't use their skills, that they get interrupted in their skills, especially for mages or anything, getting shields away from Crusaders and so on. CC is very important for you. You need to annoy the enemy as hell. For the high resonance, it's still important because you kind of need to catch the enemies when they run away from you. You need a starfire or pull from the chains to get them to you. But for the highest resonance, again, it gets less important because as soon as your dots touches them, they are a goner. So forget about CCs on the highest resonance parts. Coming back to burst. Burst damage important. Do you need to slowly deal damage and consistent, or do you need all of the damage in like 1 second? For the low and mid resonance, burst is not so important. You just need to annoy them. You need to force the enemies to go back and leave the battle. This is what you need to do. You don't need to kill them. You don't need to actually murder a lot of them in a short amount of time. You just need to annoy them that they go away and let you push the idol. For the highest resonance, on the other part, there you need it, of course. You need to effectively kill the enemies to create that space for your team. And this is your job as a high resonance player. You need to kill. So, after all of that theory, what does it mean for us? What builds are coming out of that analysis? We have 3 directions in my opinion. The low resonance build need to focus on CC, so we give them a Spartusk that is very nice, and even now with the new boost of reducing beneficial effects and everything, very cool. We give them a sprint, that they are fast, the chains to annoy the enemies, but a different essence level here, not the regular meta. I will show that to you later on. And Undying Rage, of course, to keep them alive. Mid-resonance, on the other hand, we go, and you see everything is regards to the helmet you wear. This is a key piece for every Barbarian build. So for mid, we go with the Ancestor Steely, that gives you a longer Undying Rage duration, which is important to actually stay in the idle and staying alive and having the time to get out, to heal, to go back into, and so on. And we go with passive skills, so Wrath, Cleave, Chains, everything that deals damage while you are in a stun lock, so that you actually benefiting the team just by being a big meat sack that is just pushing the idle. For the highest resonance, we now go with a Terror Helmet. This Terror Helmet gives you all of the immunity fun, so you can run around. Even here, the latest buff was very nice, that it can be activated while you are in a stun. So this is very cool, so you don't have to look that much for the duration, because you can just pop it when you need it. And that one is a high AoE attack damage, so thinking about Viper and everything, it's very nice. And we give you the same skills, demo of course for the Terror Helmet, the Chains and the Wrath to have speed and to pull the enemies, and the Undying to stay alive. Every Barbarian needs an Undying Rage, otherwise he's useless. But that's not all. So, we talked initially about new meta. What is the new thing that everyone plays, or should at least play, because it's very efficient and beneficial for your team? It is Spartusk. It is a mid to high resonance build, so starting from 2500, 3000 resonance up to whatever, you can play this build and really be beneficial for your team. We go with the Spartusk, we have that stun with removing anything that works for the enemy, but we are not going with the sprint here, we go with the Wrath to give us the chance of dealing a dot or at least a counter attack with the Chains to pull them now, the classic Shackled Fate Chains and the Undying Rage, of course. Good! I promised you 4 builds and I will keep my word. So we start with the low resonance build. I will go through the first 3 builds very fast, and for the last one, the new meta, I will take a bit more time, will show you some gameplay and so on. So for the first, we have the low resonance Spartusk. Again, we go with Lacerate, Sprint, Demo, Chain Spear and Undying Rage. For the essences, Spartusk of course is a key piece, but for the chains, we take the Temple of Battle instead of the Shackled Fate, because we don't want to pull enemies to our position. Pulling enemies to our position is like killing ourselves. It's not good, especially when you think about Tempest. He produces so much damage, and when you pull him to yourself, you're gonna. So what we want is a CC. So we take the Temple of Battle. We can clash everything in front of us together 2 times, and we still have the benefit of 20% damage from the pants. This is what we want. This is nice. We go with the Dishonored Blade to prolong the duration of our Spartusks, so the stun gets effective for a longer duration, and we boost this by the gems. So we take the Misery Elixir here to boost it again. When you try it on the puppet you get like to a 9-second stun or something, so even with a very low potency. And for that we can take a short look at a VK's video about potency. It's very nice. Please watch this, I will link you this video here. So look at this, even if your potency is just 1500 versus a resistance of a higher resonance player of 4000, you are totally lost in that comparison. But the maximum you get is a minus 28% duration loss. So you can compensate that with the Barons, you can compensate that with a Misery Elixir, and maybe you lose 1 tick, but just 1 tick, you're still very efficiently against higher resonance players. So coming back to the build, we go with a 4-piece Baron and a 4-piece Vithus to have the benefit of a quick attack speed, because our Temple of Battle Chains now procs the Vithus, gives us a faster spell casting means Spartusk is faster and the stun from the chains is faster, so you will actually hit them before you get stunned yourself. So this is really nice. And the Barons to give you again a damage boost, and because we lost it from the Wrath, we don't have a damage boost in here, so we take the 20% from the Baron. And yeah, with that we are still producing some damage. So when you're ranked again lower resonance players, a lot of them, you will actually hurt. This is nice. And last thing, for the sprint we want in there to be fast, we need a duration increase or a cooldown reduction. We take the Broken Grasp as a shoulder to give us a little bit of dodge. So it's not a real dodge. It says a dodge chance. It is an evasion rating in this case. It's not a block chance, it's an evasion. So that's pretty cool, because block chance just cancels out normal attacks but not critical attacks, and evasion on the other hand can cancel any attack out. So it's quite a nice skill for your sprint. And last thing, if you want to go for eternal attributes or legendary attributes, of course we have a sprint in here. You can go for the knockback immunity of 25% 4 times, so 100% knockback immunity. Which might get strafed in PvP. I'm not sure about this, it's still an open discussion. But what you could do as well is a new legendary attribute that gives you a chance that your loss of control effect is jumping to another player. This one is pretty nice. You get up to a 40%, I think, with 4 items, that your stun from the Spartusk or the Temple of Battle jumps to other people over. This is a nice idea. Give it a try if you have it. And let's go to the next build. It is the mid-resonance build. I call it the turtle, because what it is, you go into the idol and you just be a little turtle that is delivering damage while being totally stunned or anything, but you're still killing people around you. Nice thing. We go with Lacerate, Wrath, Cleave, Chains, and the Undying Rage. The point is we have the Ancestor Steely, the helmet that prolongs our Undying Rage. We have the Shackled Fate now with the Buried Talons pants that pulls enemies to us into the idol, gives us a damage boost, and then with the Skull mod and the Borrowed Might with our Cleave, we increase the damage they get from any source by 35%, and we are dealing damage with our Cleave. So just with standing there, we are just hitting heavily. You can go with the Bug Breaker that let our Wrath deal counter attacks. That's really nice. Or you can go with the Sundered Legacy to have another dot in here. However you want it. Falling Thunder is a good addition for the Wrath because our Lacerate is dealing bleed damage. So at least we can when we actually primary attack, which is not that often, point given. But if you are ranked with any game where you just need to be the damage dealer, this essence will help you now to actually be that guy. Okay. We go here with a lot of dots. So gem, we can take the Torment, the Roiling Consequence, the Viper, the Jade and the Pain Clasp. 4 dots already and a good damage boost for that. Then we have the Bleed from our Lacerate. We have the Bleed from our Cleave. And we could go with the Sundered Legacy, the Burn. So we are going with overall 7 dot effects on the enemies, which is really good. And this is why I call it the turtle. Whoever attacks us gets all of that dots, and this is nice. We are still mid-resonance players. Sometimes our potency is lower, sometimes it is higher. If it is a bit lower, go with a 2-piece Baron. So in this case I advise you a 2-piece Baron and a 2-piece Vithus. Vithus of course Undying Rage and everything, Baron to prolong the duration of all of those dots. And I give you here the chance now of trying the 4-piece Grace. 4-piece Grace is nice because 7 dot effects, your primary attack, your chains, and every damage you do, you get a lot of these Grace 4-piece lightnings that hit the enemy. And the good thing is, if they run away, our dots are still on them, and that 4-piece bonus will cancel their bandages when they try to heal. So we benefit the team heavily. This is a nice thing. There are other sets to pick, and I will on the last build I will show you some alternatives. So if you want to check out the last build, I will tell you their alternatives for that. go with the Warden in this case, because you have another shield, you have a damage reduction, you can stay longer in the idle. Gladiator might be a good thing as well, if you like, but Gladiator is more like the point of dealing more damage with a grizzled veteran. So in this case we will not kill that much. I like the Brawler here more, but try the Warden. Try it and find your best way. I suggest you that one. And if you search for eternal affixes on your, or attributes on your items, go for the Wrath one. It's that 20% chance for an AoE attack of A to take 10k damage or something, which you can stack up 4 times to a 80%. It's not strafed or anything, you get your 80% dot AoE attack. And this one is pretty cool because it's another damage effect on the enemy, where you don't have to do anything but having Wrath active. So it's perfect for this build. Going over to the high resonance build. This is if you need to carry your team. You're one of the big guys. You are 6k plus or whatever. You actually need to hurt. And what you do is here. You can go with the Lacerate, Wrath. You have the Demo, the Chains, and the Undying. And for the essences, of course, Heartless Terror to be immune to any loss of control or stunts. You have the Shackled Fate, the Buried Talents to pull enemies to you and have an increased damage. Then we go with the Lacerate with the 2 combination of Rending Bite and Ardent Fervor to give us a good attack speed, so that you actually, while you're in that immunity, can deal many primary attacks. We boost that with the Gloom Cask, the gem for primary attacks that gives you that nice AoE attack as well, and yeah, increases your damage heavily. For Wrath, there are many ways. You could go with Sundered Legacy to just have a dot that burns everyone around you. It's a nice thing to go, but consider this Roar of Persuasion. This thing, when you have a lot of dots, when you deal a lot of damage, heals you like crazy, so it makes you really undying. It's like a second Undying Rage. If you try this, really it works like a charm and keeps you at max health very good. Combined with the Falling Thunder, because we can deal primary attacks, so we benefit from the bleeds on the enemy and get another nice damage boost. And lastly, we go with the Nature's Temper. The Nature's Temper dealing another damage while we primary attack, and because we can, we are immune. This is a nice thing to do. 6-piece Banquet, 2-piece Vithus is what I tell you. 6-piece Banquet is so crazy when you are at a high armor penetration and a high potency. You will burn everyone around you when it's active. So we combine it with the Vipers, because Vipers plus Heartless Terror gives you a good AoE attack that actually brings a dot to anyone around you, and yeah, that delivers your Banquet dot to them. Of course, you can now go with a Roiling Consequence as well, but consider that you only have a smaller time frame where it's active, and if that time frame and your Banquet time frame do not match, you kind of miss the opportunity to actually kill a lot of enemies. So I still advise you the Vipers. You can try it with a Rolling Consequence only. It will work, but yeah. Starfire is very good for here, because you can actually knock down an enemy when you're running into the pit, and then that Starfire CC comes down. You have a good duration on that CC and a heavy damage, of course. So you will kill randomly enemies with that gem. It's very effective. And Spiteful Blood, on the other hand, this now is the final thing to make you undying with a Roar. The Spiteful, you have of course your Savior, you have your Gladiator, which I strongly advise to you in that build. So because you don't have any shields or anything around you, you're going into that immunity step by step to just be alive for the whole duration. Again, Eternal Attribute, go for the Wrath, that AoE damage while you're just running beneath enemies, that big blow of damage, it will kill enemies for you easily. Coming now to the 4th build, our new mid to high resonance meta build for Spartusk. This build, I think many of you play it already. I just want to highlight it for everyone because it's so effective. And it helps you to, on the one hand, get a better chance to deal with Tempest. It's not working 100%, but it will increase your chances to actually kill Tempest. And of course, while everyone is playing Barbarian, it gets kind of messy. It gets messy at the idle and you don't have a chance to actually push the idle anymore because every Barbarian is cancelling themselves out. So with Spartusk, with that build, you have the chance now to actually deal with enemy Barbarians. So it's nice. We go with Lacerate, Wrath, the Demo, Chains and Undying, same thing. For the helmet, of course, is Spartusk. It's really nice because you can cancel out the Undying Rage of enemy Barbarians. You can cancel out the immunity shields from the Crusader. You can cancel out the immunity from the Squall of the Tempest. You can cancel out a lot of things. Still, they have their Savior, still they have their Gladiator, it will proc and you can cancel off that some of that stuff as well. But when you use it already on the Undying Rage, of course, the enemies still have that. But he will run off instantly, so you saved the idle, you saved the day. Shackled Fate, Barbarian Talon again to have the damage boost, Rending Bite for the bleed and Falling Thunder to have another damage boost. We go with Sundered Legacy again because we are low, we want to do some dots. We will get stunned with this build, we need to deal damage while we stunned. So Sundered Legacy and a few dot gems are very nice for this build. We are higher resonance, not really high, but we go with shields here. We take some shields, so we go with a 4-piece mount bank. This will help you. And the Frozen Heart, another cool shield we can take. Of course, we have the Savior, and we go with the Brawler or the Warden. The Warden it's called, I think. Again, that gives you another shield and damage reduction from the Paragon tree. This is nice and helps you. And we have the Loathsome Lamina. This thing will give you another shield from your Wrath of the Berserker. So we have some shields to stay alive, to actually deliver our Spartusk. And what we do with the Spartusk in this case, because we have some potency, we do some damage, we have some dots, especially with the Sundered Legacy, we go with the Lion's Mane. So while we push enemies to us, we burn them, actually resolve that dots instantly while the enemies get hits from the Spartusk. So you remove every beneficial effect of them. Your dot is already on them. You resolve the dot now that they don't have an immunity anymore and they get a huge amount of damage. This is a basic idea of this build. We do this with a 4-piece Vithus because our Shackled Fate always procs the 4-piece Vithus. We are all the time on a higher attack speed. And while we stunned the enemies, while we pulled them to us, we actually have time to do some primary attacks. So for that, having that 4-piece Vithus is really good. And of course to have a faster attack speed animation to cast our skills. This goes especially for the Shackled Fate, for the chains that are then faster. For gems, some critical hit chance is important, so having that Mother's Lament is nice, Roiling Consequence is nice, and what is working pretty good is the chip of the Stone Flesh, because when you pull enemies, they get stunned, it's a total loss of control, so the chip is activating, you actually deal damage now with resolving all of the dots, and then you get another damage tick from that flesh that helps you killing enemies. Okay. That's mostly it. We will have a look at it now. If you're looking for eternal affixes here, go again for the Wrath build, dealing passive damage as an AoE. It's nice. So let's look into the gameplay. Good. This build, yeah, it's really working good. You won't be the main killer of the game. Of course, you are supporting your team by sitting the idle, being slightly in front of the idle. You kill enemy Barbarians, you kill enemy Crusaders, and you try to get a control on Tempest. So this is your role in the game, it's working pretty good. How we do it, of course, with the main 2 essences, the Spartusk and the Lion's Mane, to resolve anything that gets hit by our demo. What is good, what could be very beneficial is if you take the Lashed here, it's another dot. When you have it on 6 pieces, you get a very small cooldown, just 9 seconds or something, that actually helps you hitting enemies, going on your Spartusk, resolving all of the damage instantly, so it's a nice thing to do. I recommend the Lashed Curse here in this case. And of course this combo works really nice. It works in combination with our dots. So like the Lashed, we want a Sundered Legacy. Sundered Legacy really is a huge dot damage. It's really delivering a lot of damage. And combine it with those two things, the Rolling Consequence and the Vipers. Vipers always hitting, Rolling Consequence has a very good uptime. And then you have already this 3 dots combined with the Lashed, even 4 dots, without even investing a lot of stuff. You have your Rending Bite as well as another bleed, so you go up to 5 dots and you're resolving all of that stuff. Each dot will hit individually, so each dot while getting resolved has an individual chance of critting. It's not like you have your lucky, your Spartusk crits, and all of this resolves crits now as well. No, it's not like this. Even your Spartusk cannot crit, but one of the resolves of the dots crits. So it's like a good overall damage you get with that. It's not like you have that big blow, but you could have that big blow. It's working very in a funny way. Okay, we boosted with overall nearly 50% damage. That's what we want to do. We have the Falling Thunder, we have the Buried Talons. Those two things are important because otherwise, when we don't have this nearly 50%, we are not that strong. Our damage, because Spartusk has a very long cooldown, you can reduce it a bit with the Lion's Mane of course, but it's still not effective all of the time. So we kind of need a damage booster to make it valid, to make our dots valid and our primary attack valid. And you do this with those two essences to give you that boost. And finally, I told you before, we need to talk about sets. This is for the mid-resonance turtle, and for this build, of course, we want to have usually the mount, because it's working good. You have a good shield here that helps you, especially escaping from enemy, fighting until the last seconds, where you now have that magical shield popping up, and in combination with the other shield from the warden and the other shield from maybe your cat or whatever, it is a cool thing to keep you constantly supplied with shields and with the Losum Lamina, to be really tanky. But instead of tanky, you could go for other things. If you are at a higher resonance, you already have a higher armor, you don't need that another shield here. You could go with a 4-piece banquet. This really because you have the pull from the Spartusk, and you have your chains, and combined with the Vipers you have a lot of dots on many enemies, and you have multiple dots, and every single dot on an enemy counts. So you're getting up to the 10 to the stack of 10 times for the banquet really fast, and then you have a good critical hit chance. And with that critical hit chance from that, the roiling, the lament and everything, you will actually improve your damage a lot. So if you want to go for damage, for kills with this build, because you're on the higher end of the resonances, go with a 4-piece banquet here. Next thing you could do, even for the lower part, where you say, my shields are gone anyway in a second, I don't even have a cat. I'm just there for the duration of my Undying Rage. Then you could go with a support. You go more into the support route. There you can go with a 4-piece Grace, because you have that effect of cancelling enemy bandages, which could be so important for the game. Yes, you don't have much kills, I get that, and many of you want kills, but if the enemies need to step back from the idol and they can't heal there because of your dots on them and your Grace hit that stops their bandages, it will take them out of the game for 10 to 20 seconds, where they are just dead meat. If they want to approach again with their 10% HP that is left, they will die instantly. So you can benefit the game a lot with a 4-piece Grace. Take this into account. It still deals damage, so it's not like you're wasting all of the damage. No, 4-piece Grace still have a good amount of damage. So think about this. I like it very much. So my Immortal Nerds, that's my perspective on the PvP builds that actually matters the most currently. I know there are a lot of other combinations out there, and not every build fits your individual playstyle, but hopefully some of this content will benefit your ranks in the battleground and improves the satisfaction you have with our best class, the Barbarian. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a like, and as always, if you want more content like this, subscribe. See you all soon in the battleground, guys. Love you all.